first speaking task you will have to complete in the CELPIP speaking exam is giving advice. So let's take a look at what is expected for this question. The first thing to keep in mind when completing each of the speaking tasks is the timing. For this task, you'll be asked to give advice to someone about a common situation or event. You'll have 30 seconds to prepare your answer, and you must speak for 90 seconds. You'll be expected to fill the entire 90 seconds, so it's important to time yourself when you're practicing so you have a sense of what it feels like to speak for 90 seconds. Next, you should consider your audience. For this task, you'll be giving advice to someone, so you should address the listener directly. For example, you might begin with, "Hello, Jim. I think you should." Now, let's look at some tips to consider when you're giving advice. First, think about the number of suggestions. In 90 seconds, you'll probably only have time to give 3 suggestions, which you may want to quickly write down on some notepaper during your 30-second preparation time. In addition, you should try to use a variety of expressions for giving advice. In this unit, you'll learn some different advice expressions which you can choose from. Next, use transitions. Avoid listing off your advice in order like first, second, third. Instead, use a variety of transitional words and expressions. We'll practice some of these in this unit. It's also important to remember to give examples and explanations with your advice. So, for each of your 3 pieces of advice, you should include at least one brief explanation about what you mean. And finally, don't forget to show off your vocabulary. You want to try using some academic vocabulary, but you also want to sound as natural as possible, which means that you should include idiomatic expressions and phrasal verbs from time to time. Okay, so let's take a look at an example question for giving advice. You're an experienced employee at a busy, fast-paced company, and you're offering advice to a newly hired worker about time management. Directly address the new worker, whose name is Tom. Now, let's read the sample answer. I'll read it first, but feel free to pause the video when I'm done and try reading it on your own. Hello, Tom. Welcome to our team. I understand that starting a new job can be overwhelming. Let me offer you some advice on managing your time effectively. First and foremost, it's crucial to prioritize your tasks. Take some time at the beginning of each day to identify the most important and urgent tasks that need to be completed. This will help you focus your energy on what matters most and avoid getting bogged down by less critical tasks. Next, I recommend breaking down your tasks into smaller, manageable chunks. This can make them feel less daunting and more achievable. Set realistic goals for yourself and try to tackle them one at a time. Another helpful tip is to minimize distractions. In a busy office environment, it's easy to get sidetracked by emails, phone calls, or social media. Consider using tools or techniques to help you stay focused, such as setting specific times to check your emails or using noise-canceling headphones to block out distractions. I'm sure that if you implement some of these strategies, you'll be successful. Good luck, and don't hesitate to reach out if you ever need anything. I'm here to help. So, we'll now take a closer look at how the sample answer is structured. As you can see, there's an introduction. It's important to begin by addressing the person you're giving advice to and explaining that you're going to give them some advice. Next, you can see in the body of the answer there are 3 pieces of advice: to prioritize your tasks, to break down the tasks in smaller manageable chunks, and to minimize distractions. We can also see from this first example that after giving the suggestion to prioritize your tasks, we follow it up with a more detailed explanation of what we mean by that. Another thing to note is the use of transitions in the sample answer. You can see that we've used expressions like first and foremost, Next, and another helpful tip is, next, let's look at the variety of advice expressions which are used. You can see 3 different expressions used in our sample answer. We'll learn these and more advice expressions in Unit 1. And finally, we can see that this sample answer includes a nice variety of vocabulary, including some academic words like implement and some idioms like get bogged down. We'll study these words in the next lesson. Now that you have seen an example of how to approach the first speaking task, work through Unit 1 to practice each of the main components: vocabulary, advice expressions, transitions, and some common grammatical mistakes to avoid. Time to begin.